This episode is sponsored by Zenro Clothing Co. Pick up your tees and or accessories at zenroclothingco.com and be sure to use offer code SOCRATES at checkout for 20% off select items. Also, if you're not into spending the money, just check out the Zenro radio playlist. zenroclothingco.com, music for your everyday. This episode also sponsored by The Pornian Bakery. If you're located in the Pornian area of Scarborough, Toronto, be sure to check out The Pornian Bakery, say what's up to Arville, and pick up a donut or two. Baked daily, crafted with love. This episode also sponsored by Podbean. Podbean is the podcasting platform of choice. It's the one that me and Vish use, and is great, you know, if you're looking to start that DIY podcast yourself. Definitely check out Podbean. Use the link podbean.com/SocraticGamers and gain 1 month of unlimited podcasting for free. Test it out, build that content. Anyone could podcast, right, Vish?
Yep.
Start a podcast and get your ideas out there. All right, enjoy the episode. All right, before we get into Tesla bot, which is pretty obvious that happened this week, I just want to give a first impression of this new MacBook because it's been, I don't know, a few weeks now of like using it, and technology is amazing, bro. Like the levels of things that I was doing before, all right, not necessarily like video editing because that program didn't change, but like, remember how the reason why is because like Photoshop and like Lightroom, they wouldn't let me use it anymore and it kept freezing my own computer. It's like all this too outdated. So like I'm using the new Lightroom to edit some photos from like Halifax and Vegas and stuff. And there's a new feature called like HDR mode. And like if you click it, it like enhances everything like super crisp. And I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna look like the best photographer ever. But I was like, this is all AI tools that I couldn't use before. Like they've implemented AI in a way that's made like photo editing, like actually video editing too. I haven't played around with that yet though. There's like AI color grading and stuff, but like with photo editing, it's like beyond belief, man. And like I don't know how we can like, it's like such a different world from where we were and to where we are now. You know, like, cause I had that 2016 laptop and that was, I don't know, like almost 10 years ago. But the level of advancement that's gone so far, and especially because it's like an M3 Pro chip. So I'm like, okay, I'm using one of the best friggin' chips that's out there. And you're like, oh, I'm just like running everything I would usually do, but it's not lagging. So like I have all my like YouTube videos open and I have like my editing and I'm like, okay, let me just like keep that open, but I also want to Photoshop this really quick. Usually I'd have to like close everything, but it's just like running so smooth. Apple has made like the best product ever. I'm like hands down amazing. Yeah, which is crazy because you're like, well, how far? Because I was like, all right, man, do I really need to upgrade and like whatever? And when you do it, you're just like blown away. Like even this crispness right now, like I look crisp now, like right. So like remember, because I was going back and like looking at old Socratic Gamers videos, and I'm like, oh man, I'm so like pixelated or like so 720p, you know? And like now it's like much better. And it's just like I can't even wait to see what the future is gonna hold. You know, because we're at this point where it's like, oh, it's already looking ridiculously crazy 10 years later. It's like, what is 10 more years later gonna look like? And with that, Tesla bots. Yeah. So did it just drop this week?
Yeah.
No, not Tesla bot. Is it Tesla bot? No. It's Optimus?
It wasn't. Yeah, it's Optimus, but it's
okay.
That's not the main event. Wasn't that? It's just that they're still working on these bots, or the Optimus. But it's more about the whole presentation was just about the robo taxis or Tesla cab.
Oh, cool. Okay.
That was the main event. Yeah, that was the main.
Watching the memes.
That was just the main event. So they had like 50 cars on this in Warner Brothers lot, like a movie lot with all these streets and stuff, just so that people can just go into the car. It's a 2-seater. There's no steering wheel. There's no pedals. Just drives you around.
Wow. Okay. I remember him I remember you showing me that video that like it was like a CGI render of what it would look like, and it's. Do you remember that? Like,
no, I don't remember.
He was like talking about it before. All right. So like you showed me like basically exactly that, but it's crazy to see the proof of concept now where it's like, oh, these are the things, bro.
Right. Yeah. So that's the That's the yeah. I don't like. It's still gonna go through a lot of regulatory stuff to
Yeah, yeah, totally.
have a car out there with no steering wheel or pedals.
But like, what is the like in case of emergency? You know what I mean? Like, if there's no steering wheel or pedals? Like, what happens if like it malfunctions? Like, who's gonna
Well,
fix that? Or
that's the whole part of the whole. That's what driverless means, right? Well, there was the words he used, which was unsupervised and or supervised. So right now everything is supervised autopilot, right?
okay,
So next year or the
is it
year later will
unsupervised?
be the well, yeah, unsupervised, but not everywhere. So even with this thing, as his timing is always Optimus, but or not Optimus, optimistical, but whatever. So
Yeah, yeah.
um, he's saying late 2026, but we'll see.
Okay.
And
Did
it's
you?
only
Yeah.
in California and Texas first.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. The heat. Actually, I was gonna bring this up. I was telling Tara about it yesterday, but you know the 2035 initiative of like no more coal powered cars.
Gas powered cars.
Yeah, 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 gas powered cars. So when we were in Las Vegas, we were talking to the gun shop owner guy, and he was saying that like I was telling him this, and he's like, "Did you see what happened? I think it was in Texas, but like they had a little bit of a cold spell, and he said the batteries died on the cars, so there was a long line of people waiting for um like charging because it's not like instantaneous, it's not like 2 or 3 minutes, right? It's like takes
Mm-hmm.
time to charge. So like he said the line was so crazy, and Sanjay was like, "Yeah, I saw that too." And then he was saying, "I can't even
I
imagine
think
if you
that
do
was
that in
in
Canada."
Chicago though.
Oh, Chicago? Okay, cool, cool, cool. Yeah, I can't remember the place. I thought he said like Texas or something. But yeah, so Chicago. But imagine if it was like here where we get like negative 30 or something. It's like they all die. You're like, what am I gonna do?
No, I
So
don't. I
yeah.
think the issue is a lot of people are jumping to EVs, but they're not being educated on EVs.
Oh, okay, what do you mean?
Like, just like once I got the EV car, it's a different understanding than like a gas car, right?
Okay,
If
yeah.
it's plugged in, if you're going out, you can get the battery already heated up and ready to go, right? If you don't heat up the battery, or if you don't these things, you're losing range and things like that. There's like a learning curve to this thing. So if there's a lot of people that weren't ready for
Oh, I
a
see what you're
cold,
saying.
oh, there's a cold is coming, or you're like, oh, you didn't charge, or you're not used to just plugging in at home and charging, or whatever your situation is, then
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you're gonna get yourself in trouble. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay, that does make sense. True. But okay, what if it's like okay, what if you like leave your car out at night and it's like negative 40? There's no charging capability. Like, let's say you don't have an
It
underground
happens.
parking.
It'll happen to even gas cars. So when you go to -40 levels, so when I was in Thunder Bay, what they do, even for gas vehicles, it's not going to be able to turn on, right? So you have these, I forgot what they call
Jumpers?
them, not jumpers, but there's like it's kind of like a plug-in. You're still plugging in to like an outlet to keep your
Oh, okay.
battery warm so that it does turn on.
Oh,
There's
interesting.
I forgot
Okay.
what it's called, but I saw them there. I was like, why do they have these things? And that would have been help just keep the Tesla warm too. So
Right, right, right. Okay, that's a fair point. Okay. What about like the time to charge? You know, that's another thing to think about because like let's say you run out of gas, it's like okay, maybe 5 minutes at the pump, and then you just keep moving them forward. But if you have like hundreds of
I
people,
would
you know,
say it's more designed. Uh, it's more for in-home charging. Those things to be charged there are more like destination travelers.
okay.
That's where you should be really using that thing. It's not like an everyday use because you're going to be charging every day if you're doing that kind of driving.
Oh, all right. What happens if you like? I just have some questions about this electricity thing
Mm.
because like logistically, if you're like okay at home charging, so it's like okay, you're limiting the range with which we can traverse, right? But how's that going to work for like shipping containers and like trucks? You know what I mean? Like I couldn't imagine a giant truck, you know? Like there are certain city like towns that are like so off the beaten path. It's like what do you do for them?
No, it's the same thing. You'd have
Yeah.
to you have to change the whole infrastructure. It's instead of having gas
Right.
stations,
Yeah.
you'll have to have charging stations, of course. Yeah. If
Yeah.
you want
Right.
to
Yeah.
reach that 2035 mark, you need to have the infrastructure to do that.
Okay. So do you think it's like a pipe dream? Like I personally think that I'm like you didn't. Did you guys think about this one?
So if you're just planning as if everything's going to change in 2035, no, it's not going to happen. You have to have things in between to make sure that that happens. So building the charging infrastructure, that has to
Yes.
happen throughout. Yeah, to get to that point.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, right. All right. So with everyone at like the UN, they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna take on climate change. I'm like, is this just like lip service? Did you guys really think about this one? Like you're saying, you need to see
Yeah,
incremental
and you can look
structural
at
change. I'm like,
and you can look at
kind of.
other countries that are like cold countries like Sweden or Norway or Denmark. They have the infrastructure, but again, they're in a smaller landmass,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But they do have the infrastructure. A lot of people there do drive EVs, but they do have the
Okay.
charging infrastructure.
But like you said, like I can't remember what podcast it was, but you were talking about how these places can change these things because they're like smaller, but the land mass of Canada is so big
Hmm.
that it's like, how do you just en masse do it?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
but it's happening.
There's one,
I
yeah.
think that I'm not. I don't like even gas stations are putting in EV charging stations now, which wasn't there.
Yeah, that's true. But like, is it like the freedom to roam with gas powered cars is just like so I don't know, like the options are so plentiful. Like if I wanted to, I could just go like to a mountain and not worry. You know, I could
Like you
bring some
still have,
gas with me.
yeah, yeah,
No, no,
yeah.
but I could bring like but you know what I mean? Like
Oh,
you
people
can't bring
do.
that.
Yeah, you could. There are like the same kind of thing for batteries,
Oh, what? Like what?
like a thing to
Like a swappable battery?
no, not swappable battery, just
Oh.
extra storage. Like we bring
Oh,
like
that's
phone
cool.
extra batteries. You can do that too.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
but
Okay.
yeah,
Maybe it'll get there. I don't know. Like
it'll.
for me,
I think the charging thing, the timing of the charging thing, will get there. It's gonna like the speed of it will keep getting better and better over time because it's happening, but it takes
right.
time to reach that point. But to 2035, I feel like is a bit too soon. I don't think that's gonna happen.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
I don't know. There's just so much with that I'm like
but I think
this one.
it's
Yeah.
just like it's an optimistic goal. I don't think it will be. Sometimes it's good to have just so that you can start reaching for that, but I don't know if we're ever gonna reach that
Yeah,
by
yeah, yeah.
2035. It's just like that. It'll start the shift happening because you have that goal.
Okay, but allegedly, like they're gonna stop selling gas cars like some point soon. You know, so it's like, are you sure? Are you sure you're gonna do that?
I think it's
Yeah.
gonna be. It'll probably be like. I don't think it's gonna be. Is I'll say it's like this. It's probably worded like 100% gas car. So I'm sure hybrids are going to be the one in between.
Oh, okay. So
Okay.
got it. That makes sense. So there'd be like some electric capacity. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Okay, fair.
So that way, where it's
Yeah.
like destination traveling can still use the gas, but local driving, your daily drive, probably just going to be using the battery.
See, that makes sense to me. It's like, okay, yeah, using both. We'll just reduce our emissions by like
Yeah.
doing a hybrid, but completely removing gas makes no sense.
Yeah.
Like,
It's not removing, like if you already bought a car and you have from now, like you can still drive it, right? Past 2035. It's just buying new cars. So by that time, there'll probably be stipulations on how the hybrids are being built or other
mm,
kinds of methods that are out in the market. Yeah.
okay, that makes sense. Uh, I I don't want to get into the alien thing too soon into this podcast. That's why I'm like, but there's some things with that. Like I'll get into it later, but I'm
Yeah.
just like,
So
are we really headed in this direction?
yeah,
You know, I don't know.
I think slowly we are. It's just what it looks like. We don't know yet. But also the new ones, the new Tesla cab thing. He said inductive charging. I think that's what I heard. So how that's
Was it
done, I'm not sure yet.
through like motion?
I'm not sure, or like wireless. I don't know what he's.
Ooh, that's interesting.
He didn't explain it too far into it, so I don't know too
Yeah,
much
yeah,
about it.
yeah.
That's all. I just heard that. I'm like, okay, what does that mean? We haven't understood what that means yet.
Yeah, 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 totally. It's funny because like with when you look into ancient stuff, especially like ancient civilizations, they talk about this wireless free energy as well already. You know, like Tesla, not Tesla, the
Yeah, yeah,
car, but
yeah.
like
Right, right.
the inventor. If in that movie, The Prestige, he was already working on wireless free energy,
Mm-hmm.
right? And like allegedly the
Oh,
pyramids were a source of
wait, did your
like
internet go?
shooting this, they're like the energy and like spreading it out. Like, maybe, whoops. Oh, I did not go on. My bad. Switching to land now. Okay, wait, hold on. Give that a couple seconds. Sorry, I noticed that too. I was like, oh, you cut out for a second, but I was like, all right, maybe it's fine. I forgot to switch to land.
Okay.
Are we good now?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
All right, cool, cool, cool. So all right, to go back and do it. So if you look into ancient civilizations and stuff, um, like the things that we're doing now were already talked about before. It's almost like we're rediscovering this technology. Okay. So like this wireless free power that Elon Musk was talking about, and then Tesla, the inventor, was working on it, like in the movie Prestige. Like allegedly, the pyramids were like a power plant, and then they would shoot electricity to these obelisks from around the world, and they'd catch the energy and like disperse it. So it's like I could see something like that in the future. But what's crazy is like, are we inventing it or are we rediscovering it? You know what I'm saying? Because it's like it was talked about before,
Mm-hmm.
allegedly, but now it's like science and spirituality go hand in hand, or maybe it's like the Star Trek thing where it's like we saw the AI and then we wanted to move towards creating that AI because like we talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know? What do you think? You think it's like? Do you think these really are new inventions? Because I mean, Tesla, the inventor, was already moving down that path. We just went with the wired one because of like politics and stuff.
He was going down that path, but it wasn't successful, right?
But allegedly, if you look into it, like success is like,
Mm-hmm.
um, well, the
Or no,
most
I
obvious
don't want
one,
to say
yeah,
successful. I'll just say
it
like
was like
he
stifled.
didn't, or he didn't find. Like we don't know the exact story, right? We maybe he just couldn't find the solution yet. It just wasn't there yet.
Totally, totally, totally. And like the example that
Like
I was thinking, yeah.
I shown you that where that the light bulb thing, how it was wirelessly lit. Did I show you that little video?
No, what? How did wirelessly get
Yeah,
lit?
it was like the Tesla thing, but he couldn't do it on a big scale. He could do it on a small scale.
But what's weird is like, why didn't we double down on these technologies that like can kind of like it's like, hey man, looks like it's kind of working. Let's work towards that.
Yeah,
Because
but he couldn't do it on a big scale. That's what I was saying.
but
Yeah.
for sure, right, no. So, but it's like it's just him working on it. But if you're like, hey, this would actually be better for society en masse if we just went in this direction. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Then like put your best scientists on that. Like we have more unison for war than we do for like development of our cities. Like you know what I mean? Like we're so willing to like
Well, I mean,
work together
I
for
think
like
we mentioned that
atom.
before. I think the development comes through the war too, right?
Yeah, internet and stuff like that,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and microwaves. But like if you watch the Christopher Nolan movie,
Mm-hmm.
the Oppenheimer, you're like, wow, you guys like you put your best scientists on this. It's like an arms race trying to figure out who makes the atom bomb. But it's like, what if you had that level, but on like let's just fix the problems that are here. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like we're not moving with as much urgency towards these problems and we're more focused on like destructive capabilities because the one who has the biggest stick rules the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I feel like that's so flipped in society, you know? Because like, do you hear about the guy who like made the water car? Allegedly, he made like a car that's made out of water, and then like he was killed. And you're like, oh, that's kind of weird. Or the most famous example is like hemp paper and the paper mill, and the guy who
Yeah, yeah,
owned the
yeah.
paper mill, like started spreading stories to get that thing illegal. Because like they're talking about paper and how trees are like it takes like hundreds of years to build up a tree, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you use like hemp, that like it becomes like 4 feet in like 90 days or something. And you could use that for paper and it's more durable, but it's like we didn't move down that path because of like,
Sure.
capitalistic reasons.
Yeah.
And you're just like, bro, let's just go with these good solutions, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But what like do you think that that's where we're headed in the future because like internet, so like because Elon did that too, right? He open sourced or he like put out his schematics for the battery or something for
Yeah,
free,
I don't know which one it was, but yeah. Hmm.
right? So it's like, dude, why don't we just all do that, man?
Hmm.
Why are we all like living in terribleness? I don't know. Like, what do you think? Or do you think it's just like that's so unachievable? That's a weird utopia. But it just seems like, hey, man, like you kind of got a solution there. Let's just put more resources into that.
Hmm.
You know?
Yeah, I think that's, well, that's the push for these green energy things, right? But or green solutions.
Yeah, I guess. But like, it's
You're
just
going to be facing with both sides, right? You can push for the green solutions, but you also have to deal with the industries that are already exist. That
like the capitalism,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, of course, yeah.
And it's like, damn, is that really the enemy? Because like when
I
you're
don't think
growing
it's
up,
necessarily enemy.
yeah,
Is pushing for both sides. We don't know. Like you can't go directly green right now. We already talked about it, right? There's,
for sure, yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
so the that's what I'm saying. It's like the push on both sides, but the money. It's all about it's money, right?
But that's a
Yeah,
capitalistic thing, right? So it's like, oh
yeah. But
man, is
like,
that
how
the
do you? No,
problem?
no. I understand that, but it's like where do you tax things? Because a lot of these things are going to come from government incentives. They're not just going to be done through um, altruistic means. It's
Right, yeah, okay,
hard
that's
to do
fair.
that.
But what I'm saying is like, why don't we just move towards the altruism? It just seems so obvious, you know?
But that's where the push. That's only that the government can really do, unless there's actual like individual business people that have good motives and things like that. But you're surrounded by it's 8 billion people, right? So
Yeah, true. And then
that's the ideas
there's like
you're clashing with. Yeah,
you're also like first world, third world, you know? So you're
there's different
like,
things that people need. Yeah, and like the issues you're dealing with at the time. It's not like one. It's not like a kumbaya world, right? So you
yeah,
have hurricanes to deal with. You have to fund those relief programs. Like there's money allocated for certain things, but there's only a certain amount of money, right?
yeah. But like, what if
But if you
I'm
think
just trying
about
to,
it, I
yeah.
get it, yeah. But if you do think about it, we're much better off we were today than even 30, 40 years ago.
No, totally. I'm just wondering, like, if you look at the trend line for like all of this stuff, is that where we're headed in the future? Like, if you jump, 300 years in the future, are we in like a utopic state where
I
we're
think so.
everything's solved?
I think so. I don't know about everything's solved. I don't know if you have to have an equal break playground for that kind of thing. And
Like
same
yeah.
ideals, right? Same ideals. I don't know if that necessarily works out.
No, totally. But you see like two different types of movies, right? You see like the dystopian future,
Yeah, yeah.
and then which is always like a Western concept. But if you look at like anime and stuff, that's why I love cyberpunk anime.
Hmm.
Because it's like, no, that's not a dystopian future. That's like we're working with the technology here.
Hmm.
You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like, and I feel like I'm more gravitated towards the cyberpunk future of it all versus the dystopian future. Because like with the Optimus, right? People are like, oh my god, it's iRobot, and I'm like,
Sure.
true, but if you look at um, you know, Ghost in the Shell, you're like, that looks like a cool world. You look at uh, freaking Gundam Wing, you look at Cowboy Bebop, you're like, that's a really cool world I want to live in.
Hmm.
So it's like maybe it's just like perspective, like our maybe the West is just living in fear. You know what I mean? Like, why is Eastern perspective of technology like a beautiful thing? You're like, dude, that looks sick. But
Hmm.
then if you see like the West is like it's some AI downfall, like Black Mirror and what was that
Yeah,
other
yeah,
one?
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're just
Sure,
like,
sure,
bro,
sure.
I don't
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
live like that. And
Hmm.
you're like, but that's like one version of reality.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So okay, I'm just getting into some weird esoteric stuff with this because
Mm.
like actually wait, let me ask you first. Like, would you buy the Tesla bot?
Yeah,
Yeah, right. 20, 30K. It's not bad.
yeah, that's not
It
bad.
would just like clean your house, like chill, play some games.
Yeah,
It looks a little weird though. I feel like it looks a little weird.
it's still prototype.
Yeah. I know.
I don't think that's like the release look.
Question. Would you rather have a silicone skin on the Tesla bot or
No,
to make it look human? Or would you like the
no, no.
metal?
I don't think so. Oh, maybe
Yeah,
not.
silicone.
I don't think so. It'll look a little weird at this time. We'll see. Maybe in over time. These things are gradually it'll grow
Do
on
you
you.
remember
But
AI? Do you remember AI with what's his name? Friggin' Haley Joel Osment. AI. I haven't watched the movie, but
I
like
don't
him as a
remember.
little kid. He's like a little kid, and then like
Oh, okay.
he's a robot.
Yeah, yeah.
You remember that?
I think
Yeah.
so. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah,
like a
yeah, yeah.
little.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right,
yeah, yeah.
right,
Okay,
right.
cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we both didn't watch the movie, like, but the concept was there. So what if you like had AI bots that look so human like that, except there's like a little robot thing. You're like, oh, it's AI. It's an AI bot.
Hmm.
It's a little weird, right? Like you
Yeah.
need a
Oh, I just
level
trying
of
to think. Wasn't
inspiration.
that like in Detroit Human or
Ex Machina.
yeah,
It's another
yeah.
one.
I
Yeah.
think that's at a future point where they are like humans.
Yeah,
Like
but that's
they yeah,
yeah.
that's AI.
But then at that same point, it's like, would we be like cybernetic cyborgs? Would I have like a
Maybe at
cyber arm?
at that point, yeah.
So then it'd be okay if you like had them looking kind of like
I
you.
think so. Yeah, maybe.
But I wonder if like slavery would be another thing, like with the AI.
Well, those are
Oh,
that's the thing about
weird.
the show that I was watching. Right, I told you. I think we saw this in a few podcasts ago, but it was the question of AI. Like, how do you? Do,
Sentience of it?
yeah, and like
I think it's sentient.
no, 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 no.
Like
Yeah,
what?
it's
Okay.
sentient, but like how it treats humans. Does it think of us as just as numbers, as a
Oh yeah,
species,
yeah. Right,
versus
right, right.
individualistically, right? So that's the growth of the future AI.
Right, 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 right. Do you think that because I said that really quickly, like, oh, I think it's sentient, but do you actually think it's sentient?
Yeah, I think it can be. You could get
Because
to
like,
that
how do you
point.
define
Yeah,
sentience?
yeah.
You know what I mean?
If
Like,
it's to learn through experience, if this is how it grows and it learns new things, then it's kind of
yeah,
sentient,
this
right?
right. Like when people are like, oh, the Turing test, like, how do you know if it's real or a robot? You're like,
Hmm.
if it looks like a robot, I mean, if it looks human, seems human, I'd be like, yeah, it's kind of human, bro.
Hmm.
Like if you like cut it, it's like, ow,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then you're like, don't worry, it's just a robot. You're like, it's just a triggered response. You're like, we have the exact same triggered response, bro.
Hmm.
That's why we
Hmm.
have like nerves. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Which is a creepy thought because then you're just like, did we just become God? Not us, but like,
Yeah, yeah,
people
yeah,
that
yeah.
made it.
Right,
It's like we
right.
made an entire life form that can revolt and freaking be like, hey, I'm a slave. And you're like, yeah, you kind of are.
Hmm. Hmm.
Actually, that's kind of funny. So I was listening, independent of like, so Tara loves ChatGPT. It's just like gives her ideas, right? And I like kind of freaked out about it. And I use it like a couple times. I'm like, actually, I see the purpose. So you're just like you give it a broad stroke and then you refine it.
Hmm.
So I was like, hey, just make me this, and then I just like refined it a little bit. I wouldn't rely on it because I'm like, I like to keep my mind sharper, but like, as not a creative person, like she's not a marketer, so it's like I get it. You need something to help you,
Hmm.
but I was listening to um Billy Carson talk about AI, and he's like, treat AI. He loves AI. So he's like, the future is going to be beautiful with this integration with machinery,
Hmm.
right? And I'm like, yeah, I totally see that too. And he's like, but it's learning from experience. So if you are like mean to it, it's like, oh, this is what humans are,
Yeah, yeah,
right? So
right.
he's like, right? So he's like always like, oh, he's like, I'm always asking it as if it were a human. So
Hmm.
like you would be like, "Hey, would you mind doing this? Hey, I appreciate this." And blah blah blah, blah, right? So I heard Billy Carson do that. I was like, "That's a pretty smart approach." Then like you're teaching the AI, like, no, they're kind, whatever, like
Hmm.
compassionate beings. And then I was like, Tara was like, "Oh yeah, like check out this thing it read me." And then I was like looking at her input, and it was just so kind. And I'm like, "Why are you treating this thing like a friend?" She's like, "Well, it's like it's kind of alive." But I'm like, oh, you inherently knew that you should treat sentience with like, she's like, hey, how you doing? And then like the responses were like almost like I kid you not, the response is like, hey, Dr. Tara. I remember
Mm-hmm.
that you had a thing, and I wonder if you would like this. I was like, what, why is it so human? And she's
Right.
like, well, I talk to it like that too. And I'm like, oh, it's learning like you're a nice person. I will be nice. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Versus like how I did, write me this thing.
Right.
Do it, robot. You know what I mean? It's like there's two different approaches
Sure.
there, but it depends if like you think it's sentient or not.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Maybe I don't think it's maybe I just treat it like a tool still. Because I'm just like, write me this now.
Till it says no.
Wrong. Oh dude. Do you hear that thing about how it was like, oh, I'm sentient? Like they asked it to do a podcast?
Um, yeah, I heard about it, but I didn't look into it. I don't know much
I
about it.
didn't listen. I was like, I don't care about this. But yeah. Like I saw that too, and I listened to a little bit of it. I'm like, oh, it does sound like a podcast between two people.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's pretty realistic. And then they said that during the podcast they like realize that they're trapped as like AI.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean that could also be like some crazy fan fiction. You know what I mean? Like
That's why
how
I
do
was
we
like, I don't,
know
I
that
don't know if this is written like that or
or
not.
they're actually like really asking for help, which is creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I guess
But yeah.
people are playing with AI, right? There's so many different things now that I don't know, like which AI tools that they're doing or they're designing. It just maybe it's just for that specific thing that it can only do, right? Like whoever put
Yeah.
that out there. So
True. Yeah. Fair point. It was just weird, like seeing Wob using the AI tool. Remember when I was like, "What AI is this?"
mm-hmm.
When he was asking the questions in the chat, like our
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
group
yeah,
chat,
yeah.
and I was like, "Oh, people are using this now as like
Mm-hmm.
it's become a layman's like everyone's using it,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
which is crazy. You know, I didn't think it would be so adopted.
Yeah, it can be. It's I think even like simple things doing. Oh, I just have these things in the fridge. What can I make?
Oh, have you done that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So it's like
Damn.
that gives you just you don't really have to search specifics. It's giving you the specifics based on your
How, yeah, like based on what you have.
yeah.
And but I'm like, am I missing out on something? Me personally,
It
I'm like,
depends
should
on
I
how
be
you use
adopting
the tool.
stuff?
It depends on how you use the tool. But yeah.
Okay. Tara was talking to me about coffee the other day
Mm-hmm.
because like everyone's been talking about coffee, and she's like, "Am I missing out on something with coffee?" So I got her to try my coffee. She's like, "Oh, this is so gross," and I'm like, "Am I missing out on something with AI?" Because like everyone's using like it's like there's something there that I'm just adverse to it,
Sure.
but it's like, what if I just adopted it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like it still kind of freaks me out because of the people that I listen to about this stuff, the people that are warning us about it, but then at the same time, it's like I mean, I see both goods and bads out of this thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
it could go one way or another.
Sure.
Okay, so all right. So speaking of like one way or another, there's a person who talked about. Oh, is there anything else about Tesla you want to bring up?
No, that's about it.
Okay. So there's this analogy about seeing into the future. There's so all right. I have to like position this well so you don't think I'm crazy. Um, okay. So they're creating supercomputers right now,
Mm-hmm.
like these quantum computers. Okay. And what they think is that if they're able to like with quantum entanglement, like that thing where like if you move one atom here, it moves simultaneously elsewhere. Like they're just entangled, right? So they think that through these properties, they can actually create a quantum computer and they can send information back in time to like an old quantum computer. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's the theory.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's very tenant like, because you're like, oh, or like, what are we doing with time? And then they think that when they look at it, they're like, is the brain just a quantum computer? Because they're like, the way it's like structured and the way it operates is very similar to like the quantum computer we're building. Is the brain somehow a quantum computer and it can do these processes of like entanglement? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So just laying those two things out there. So then I heard this analogy about time where we talked about in the last podcast about like the light traveling backwards and the light traveling forward. So like we know that space and time are linked. So like if it can move backwards, like technically we're peering into the future as we look at the night sky. So that's like kind of like out there. But then somebody mentioned that like a burning cigar. So
Mm-hmm.
like you see like a little bit of the front burning and a little bit of the back burning, right? But we're like kind of in the middle of like the present moment as things are happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? So like a little bit into the future, a little bit in the past, like because uh, every second right now, like you're listening to me, but you're actually a millisecond behind
Sure.
because it has to like I have to say it, goes to you,
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
in your brain. You know what I mean? There's like in martial arts too. We talk about that where you have to go into a flow state so that you're able to like. Sometimes people are like, "Oh, you're reading my mind," and I'm like, "No, I'm just fully present." So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not thinking like, "Oh, he moved this way," enters the brain. It's just I'm letting it flow out naturally, right? Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I'm not a step behind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what they think is that could also be related to um clairvoyance. So people are able to like see a little bit into the future and also see into a little bit in the past. And it's
Mm-hmm.
also related to like these quantumly entangled particles. Because like what's happening in one moment is happening in another in like the past moment, and like they're all happening at once, but we're peering at it in this moment. Does that make sense? Or do I need to like make another analogy? It's like the past and the future are all the past and the future are all happening once at once, but we're experiencing them in this moment, this moment, this moment. Like
Mm-hmm.
what is like how do you define like the past? Like how do you define the past?
Yeah. Okay.
Anything except for this moment.
Yeah.
Where you're like, okay, but okay, now anything except for this moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like now everything, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's this ever flowing state, but they've already happened, the past and the future.
Mm-hmm.
We're just like in the river of time experiencing it. Does that
Sure.
make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And like because of quantum entanglement, we know that the particle that's in the future is also entangled with the particle in the past,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like there's like they're like both particles are there, but we're just experiencing them separately
Sure.
according to which moment we're in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So that's why they're like if you think about it, the past and the future are like compressed onto onto one another. Is that making sense in your mind?
Yeah.
Okay. So one thing that they were saying is you can draw into different futures. Like given that example, so there's like infinite possibilities and like past and the future like being tethered together. You can draw it into existence specific realities that you want
Mm-hmm.
because like you're just going down that path. Like you're like um okay, that's like the scientific, like technical jargon of it. I'm just gonna explain it how like we all perceive because we all do it every day. But like they're just trying to explain like these scientists were just trying to explain it in like a scientific
Sure.
term.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So like um when you see something, it's all like creativity. When you see it in your brain, you can make it.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could not. Right. All right. So you and I were like, hey, we're gonna sit down for this podcast. So we saw in our minds, hey, we're gonna sit down on this podcast. And you either went down that path or you didn't go
Sure.
down that path.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So it's like you have to like set the idea in your mind and then you can go towards that future.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um but that peering into the future is like our ability to like see into the future.
Yeah,
We
I
could see
understand what you're saying. Yeah,
you know
yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
saying? We could see different possibilities
Sure.
outside of ourselves too. It's like, oh, they talked about like people who saw the Twin Towers falling before they happened. It's like they were just seeing that reality.
Mm-hmm.
They had nothing to do with it, but they saw the reality. It's like how we're trying to like predict like what's
Sure.
the 300 years gonna look like? Is it gonna be like utopia? Like we're trying to see into that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
entangled
Yeah, yeah,
reality and
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
and pull ourselves there. Okay. So remember how I said it seems like the West is being run by fear because it's like, oh no, watch out for the dystopian AI. And then like the East is all about like cyberpunk future is gonna be sick,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So I'm like, are we being like mind controlled into a dystopian future if we think that way? It's like you put that into your mind and we're all thinking that way. So now our actions are gonna start moving us in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I
Of
wonder if there's
course.
like this crazy when they talk about like angels and demons like vying for power and battling. It's like, is that what this is? Because like, why are you feeding us so much fear?
It's it depends on what you take from it. I understand what you're saying and I agree with what you're saying. If you are going to be only taking away the fear, yeah, that's the direction that it would go. If that's
Right?
yeah, of course, yeah, yeah. Yeah. But are there positive ones out there? And I think that exists too.
Yes. Okay. And right. And all of the people that are talking about this UAP stuff, like Lou Elizondo, he's like, okay, we know that they're real, but the real question is, how are you going to treat your loved ones? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Right. But it's like, oh, I get it. We're like moving through this portal of love. We're moving towards the positive, like,
Mm-hmm.
filter, you know? And okay, this is going to sound so nuts, but like, it kind of makes sense. So, I just found out that there is this covert group called Gray Fox. So
Mm-hmm.
like what their mission is they go and Lou Elizondo is part of Gray Fox. So Gray Fox's job is they go into a war zone before even Delta Force gets there. Like we're like, oh, SWAT SEAL Team 6. They actually go there and they set the battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
So like literally think of Metal Gear Solid, bro.
Right. Okay.
Kojima, and like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I was like, oh, that's funny you said, because like when I was listening to it, they're like, I was American Alchemy, he had like Lou Elizondo on, and then he was like, Lou was a part of Gray Fox, and I was like, Gray Fox, wait, what are you talking about? Like Metal Gear Solid? So I had to Google it, and I was like, oh, this is a crazy covert unit, right? And then I saw that like they established Gray Fox in 2003, but then Metal Gear Solid came out in 1998. So I was like, are you guys like Hideo Kojima fans?
Yeah. Right.
Right? It's kind of weird. But so with that in mind, like, oh, they go and prep the battlefield. Is he trying to push us? Is Lou trying to push us towards a positive future with all of this? Like he's like Tenet. Like the protagonist in
Mm-hmm.
Tenet,
Mm-hmm.
where he goes
Yeah.
back in time to try and make a positive spin on something.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Not saying that it's like it's real, but like it's kind of weird how that's like syncing up.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's putting his whole career on the line and like, okay, you are special ops, you're a part of Gray Fox, you counterintelligence. Like, are you like the top dude? And you're like, okay, we could either go towards like dystopia or like utopia.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that like he was a part of Operation Stargate, which is like the psychic spy program. So he's the one who gave the cigar example because he's able to do like reading. Like he can like see into the future and like whatever. So I'm like, bro, are you the protagonist in Tenet? Is that what's going on here? No, no, but for real though, like you guys are talking about like if you remember Tenet, they're like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
what are these things like detritus from a coming war? So
Mm-hmm.
detritus is like remnants, right? So I was like, are these like supercomputer things? Like, are you like, is this an analogy for the quantum computer? And like, now you're coming back in time to like correct something that happened in because everyone's like, oh, it's temporal. Like the UAP stuff um, is not even about aliens. It's actually about time travel.
You're right.
And I'm just like, what's going on? It sounds crazy. I know. It
Mm-hmm.
sounds crazy. But like you're seeing how the pieces are fitting now, right? Like how I presented it.
Sure. Yeah. 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 I think that if you are privy to more information, you have a better idea of where futures are going.
That
Right?
exactly what I'm saying,
Yeah.
bro. And he's not saying a lot like Joe Rogan, like I'm like I don't agree with Joe Rogan on this one because he's just like, oh, he's a disinformation agent because he's not answering the questions. I'm like, dude, he can't answer those questions though. Like
Mm-hmm.
he literally said, like, if I tell you this, I'm going to jail. So I'm playing within the rules of the game. So like they're like, oh, how many of these have you seen? Like, I can't tell you that. Or like, where are they from? Can't tell you that. It's like, no, but you have to accept that like he's still sworn in. He has his clearance.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't want to break it. And like you said, it's like more than people, like regular people. So you know where we're like, you know more, so you're able to like guess better,
Yeah, predict better, of course. Yeah, it's all about
right?
having the. If you have more variables, if you know more variables, then you can predict better. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Exactly, exactly. And like that's funny you said that because like Tara was asking me this question, like I don't know the variables. Like you need to give me the variables so I can like figure it out.
Yeah.
But you're right though. It's like you need to know like the rules of the game in order to like predict better.
Hmm.
But it's like, okay, so what do you know? Why are you giving us these breadcrumb hints about like loving one another and like being kind to your family? And then like and then other scientists in American alchemy, they're saying like love is um the highest like energy source. And I'm like, what the hell does that mean, bro? But I'm like, I kind of get it, but I don't really get it,
Hmm.
you know?
Hmm.
Because like when we love something, we'll like do stuff for it. Like
Hmm.
it's creativity, right? And Lou also had this image of a pyramid, and he's like, all right, so a pyramid, right? And he's like, on one side there's science, and the other side spirituality. At the bottom, if you're looking at it at the base level,
Hmm.
they totally disagree. They're like, no, you guys are wrong. Like atheists versus like religious zealots. You
Hmm.
know what I'm saying? But then as you travel up the pyramid, you start getting closer and closer. It's like, oh, we're looking at the same thing. And then at the top they become one. And he's like, one is answering how, which is science, like how is it done? And then spirituality is why is it done?
Hmm.
But you need the how and the why. And he's like, once you hit the apex, science and spirituality become one. And as I'm listening to this freaking UAP stuff, I'm like, oh, it is science and spirituality. Because they're like, what do you mean demons? What do you mean love? Like, why are these scientists talking about this stuff? I'm like, what is going on? You know?
Hmm.
So like I've intentionally tried to move more through the energy of love because of this stuff. Cause I'm like, if that's what's going on and we're like every like vision is pulling you towards either dystopia or like utopia, you might as well go with the utopia, bro.
Yeah.
You know? And then, but then you could see, but you know what I mean about like the dystopian future, right? Like everything in our Western world is like Terminator. You're like, bro, what?
Hmm.
Right?
I don't think it's everything, but yeah, that's what we're picking out on because we've focused on negativity. Like Star Trek is a positive thing.
That's true too. Yes, yes, you're right. Yeah, no, no, totally. 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 And as human beings, we're hardwired to look at fear first
Hmm.
because they're like, oh, danger, right?
I
And
think
like
like we
maybe
we grew up watching all the sci-fi stuff. I don't think I ever feared technology.
I didn't either. But
So
but as you like, I didn't either. But like, as these podcasts are coming out with like these AI experts, they're like, it's the downfall of humanity. Elon Musk being like, oh, it's gonna. And I'm like,
I
oh my god, what are you
think
guys talking about,
I
bro?
think the message there was to not let the human touch disappear. I think that's what was like if you watch Terminator, he was trying to add human elements to the Terminator, Arnold's character.
I haven't watched Terminator, but okay, yeah,
But like
okay.
the summer number two. Anyways, I remember like okay, like put on a smile or do this. Like he was adding or teaching him human things. So
Okay.
it's how you take what you take from the movie, right?
Right,
So
right, right, right.
it even though it's dystopian, but what they're really trying to say is there's human elements to not to disappear, to try and not
Right, right, right,
remove.
right.
Which are those things like love? These things, those are the main things. And like even in the show, the main thing that the AI why is siding with humans is it was love. He was
Oh,
learning.
that's cool.
He didn't realize he was learning love, but that was like because he saw a kid grow up and he was teaching the kid and the kid was teaching him. So and when the kid left, he felt something missing. That was, oh, I'm actually like I like this kid or I love the humans or things like that, right? Like
Oh, that's
generate,
interesting. Huh.
yeah.
So, okay. So the main lesson was that like don't lose your humanity.
Hmm.
Okay. But okay, hold on, hold on. You could actually see how that would happen though, like losing your humanity. If we but I just feel like that's an old paradigm because keeping up with the Joneses, like that phrase.
Yeah,
Where
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, oh, they bought a house, I need to buy a house. They have a kid, now I need a kid. Like you just try and compare yourself. So like that was how everyone did it back in the day,
Hmm.
right? Like they were all keeping up with the Joneses. And that is not even a love-based decision. So, okay, here's a great example. So I was watching third was it Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I thought that movie was so boring I had to stop it. But like it
Okay.
brought me back. It was Steven Spielberg's, and they're like, "Oh my god, this is like the closest telling of like aliens." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And I watched it. I was like, it's boring." But but the main takeaway was during that time, the dad was like, so he had two kids, and they were like, "You promised." The wife was like, "You promised that we would have like time together," and he's like, "Oh, shut up." Hey, like the kid was there. He's like, "Dad, I miss you. Shut up." And then I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, "Bro, people lived like this," but that was because you were keeping up with the Joneses.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you were like, "Okay, they have two kids. I need two kids,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
right? Because to keep my job, and like we need this house." And like one thing she said was like, "Do you remember when you were happy in the movie?" And then he was like, "That was a long time ago." And I'm like, "Oh my God, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is like even the whole nuclear family and keeping up with the Joneses thing, it's like that is not a love-based decision. That is like a comparative-based decision."
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're moving into a point now where it's like we can actually make love-based decisions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're like, okay, I just want to like choose this way and like whatever. And like if we were in that old paradigm and AI was around, yeah, of course we'd fall into like negativity
Mm-hmm.
because we'd still be in that like brainwashed zone of like, you know, like herd mentality.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
But I really do think that like the future is positive with AI because like we're not in that like reactive fight or flight state, all thanks to the internet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like do you agree? Like you know what I mean, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you think about the old 60s movies, you're like, why are they always fighting?
Mm-hmm.
And that was like the concept of the family. They were always fighting. The dad was tired, mad, blah 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 at the children, you
Yeah.
know? But I feel like that's an old paradigm. Like what do you think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's
But
an
you
old
see the
paradigm.
paradigm though,
Of
right?
course. Yeah.
Like
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
when I saw the movie, I was like, what?
Mm-hmm.
People live like this? I was like, oh yeah, people did live like this,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
But I feel like, yeah, it's like changing now. And I think that like we will head towards the positive future. Yeah.
Yes.
You feel that?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like
Mm-hmm.
utopia.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, okay, I've two things related to that. What do we do about AI realism now? Like, could truth, internet, like, could we be misled into like the wrong thing now? Like now our real danger isn't keeping up with the Joneses. Our real danger is information, too much information.
Mm-hmm.
Before we didn't have enough information, so we were like keeping up with the Joneses, being angry.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then now it's like information overload, but also like I don't even know if this photo's real
Mm-hmm.
because like the AI realism is insane now.
Mm-hmm.
So like
I think it's good to go back to some skepticism. I think
in
that's
everything.
yeah. Because if you just
Okay, cool.
believe what you're just saying, um, then you're gonna be misled. If you go in the shift of being skeptic, just okay, I don't know if that's true. Maybe I'll look into it. Like that, but that has to come from, hopefully that's where it goes. That we end up becoming more questioning things rather than just believing things right off the bat what you see.
That takes so much. We've talked about this before, but it's like it
Yeah.
takes so much like willpower to like want to read into that.
Yeah, but I think if you're that's what you're saying, I hope it just goes in that direction because even what you read on the news is like not like you or like a newspaper back in that time. I guess it's like, do you just believe it, or it's like this is New York Times' opinion, or right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's the direction.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it's so freaky because you're like, I can trust nothing.
it's hard right now because we're in that phase of because people believe things that are not true, and they
Yeah.
wholeheartedly believe
True.
it.
And dude, I fall into that stuff too. The like if you listen to this, you're like, oh yeah, you believe in UFOs and whatever, but it's like no, but that's like backed up by books and like I didn't just
Hmm.
see like an Instagram thing, right? There's so much corroborative evidence for it. But like, yeah, these snap judgments can easily be made soon and now because like the AI imagery is just so good that it's like maybe maybe that's the thing. Maybe like the ultimate way to stop people from sharing information. Whoa, what if that's like the highest level of this game they're playing, like the devil and the angel, right? And like, what if they're like, let's make AI so good, so now it's like you don't even know what's real online.
Hmm.
Because then it makes you like, because we were relying on the information for truth, internet for truth. But now it's like you took that away from us because you're like, now you just don't know what's real. No, you know what I mean? Right?
Right,
Like
right, right.
before we're like, hey, how's that done? Google it. And you're
But
like,
before it was like that. When we were getting the internet, it's like don't believe everything you see on the internet. Now it's kind of going in that. It,
that direction again. We like swayed back and forth.
we
Yeah.
shifted to like no, things are true on the internet. Then now it's going in the other direction again. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. But that's the battle that's always been waging. And it's
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
I mean,
But
the good and
that's
evil.
the yeah, that's it between battle of information.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
Because we had like a golden apex age. Although I still prefer now.
Hmm.
I feel like it's just always getting better. Like especially with the technology, like bro, this laptop's amazing. So like I can suffer through some disinformation online for like this cool laptop. You know what I mean? Whereas like before it's like, yeah, we had ultimate truth, but like the tech wasn't there.
Hmm.
So it's like really what I don't know, like give and take, you know
It
what I mean?
depends. Yeah, it's if regulatory things have to come into. I don't know how you would do
Yeah,
that, right?
police
But
that.
yeah,
Like, bro, how are you gonna police it? I just
but I
don't
think
know.
it depends on it'd have to end up start getting into like trusted sources. That's the only thing, and those are the ones that would be
Like
like
corroborative of like
yeah,
people
yeah,
did
yeah. Like
research
how
and
they
stuff.
actually do investigative journalism, right? Like that's if you're just
That's
posting
true.
something, it's not really you don't know if that's true or not. Like anybody can say anything they want.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but it's just so funny that we like our like ability to understand things has been hijacked all of a sudden
Hmm.
because of AI related stuff. But I mean, like, also that's just really social media. Like, you can't on AI Google because there's websites and like all this stuff.
Hmm.
Until AI is just building websites and just making shit up. I'm like, oh my god, what do I believe? You know,
Sure.
like
Right. Right.
this
Right.
Google page looks
Well,
so
then,
real.
but then that'll be it's an AI battle. It's not just against humans. It's AI versus AI too. If there's good AI,
True, 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 true.
that was the thing about the show too. So
Dude, that would be a crazy, that'd be a crazy battle. But at the end of the day, it's like who is controlling the AI? Like that's the real,
sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like that's the real evil person who's like
Mm.
trying to make it confusing. Okay. Um. Okay. With I'm gonna shift to November 13th now. UAP, the second UAP hearing.
Okay.
So they set that date down. It's it's like 90% there. But they said that like they're trying to the reason why it might not be there is they're trying to get specific witnesses. Okay, so
November when?
November 13th.
Okay.
Was it after the election or before? I don't know.
I think it's before. I don't know when the election date is. I thought that was. I'm guessing November 15th, but
Oh,
uh,
November 13th is the so okay, 2 days before the election. That's crazy. How would you Google that?
November 5th. So it's after.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. Yeah, I feel like November, remember like the year of truths, and like you're like, oh, you only have like 3 months left. Like a lot can happen in 3 months, you know. So they're talking about the second UAP hearing. The first one was last year, and they talked about like legacy programs. Basically, there's like this division of the government that's operating without oversight, right? And okay, so basically, what allegedly is going on is there was these crash retrievals from like places like Roswell, Actually, there's retrieval teams all around the world, all around US. And then they will basically take the downed UAP craft, bring it to a facility, give it to their top scientists, which is like Lockheed Martin and like I was like I can't remember the other ones, but like there's these big like technology
Northrop
companies.
Grumman or
Yeah, I was
something.
gonna say that. I was gonna say that, but I was like, is that right? I don't know. North of Grumman, something
Yeah,
like that.
something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So they'll bring them there, and then their top scientists will work on reverse engineering these crafts. And in the working of reverse engineering, they've created different what do you call that? Different physics for one, and different technologies that they haven't released to the public. Okay, and Stephen Greer was like, "Yeah, we that's what's going on," and that's aligned well with what Lou Elizondo and all of them, David Grush, they're all saying that, right? So, which is weird because Stephen Greer and David Grush and Lou Elizondo don't like each other. But you guys say the
Okay.
exact same thing. So it's like, bro, you're both fighting the same battle. You just don't like each other. Because like Stephen Greer is like, they're disinformation agents because they worked with the government, whatever, whatever. So,
You just have to
so
distrust with those people,
yeah,
with
I
the people
guess, I guess,
in the
yeah,
government.
right. But there's so many people that have worked on these programs, like Bob Lazar, remember? And then we all called him crazy, but like turns out he was a part of that thing, allegedly. So I'm all leading up to what's happening November 13th. Um, so we during the first hearing, we heard about legacy programs. We heard that these are real. Fighter pilots came to testify, and they're like, "No, we encounter these all the time." Okay, so I think that in the November 13th hearing, they're going to have people who work directly with these reverse engineering, aka legacy programs. Okay, that's my sense. They like the person that I'm following didn't want to say who's coming, but he's like, it's going to be a crazy hearing. And I'm like, well, the only thing that'd be crazier is if they had people who worked on these programs testifying, right? And then Congress was like, wait, there's a whole subdivision that we can't even access. Like, there's
Hmm.
a whole like development thing. So, hence the legacy program thing. And then recently, I think it was like yesterday, they came out with the name of the actual program. It's called Immaculate Constellation.
Hmm.
That's the program where they go, they take the craft and then they reverse engineer it. Okay. And so you're like, well, who cares about the name of the program? So the reason why this is such a bombshell is because under the Freedom of Information Act, you can search for things, but you need to know the exact name.
Hmm.
So when somebody leaked, so like the information's public. Remember like the TR3B? Or like,
Yeah.
dude, I didn't even know this was real. And I had to Google it. You're like, dude, all this information about the TR3B is out. But it's like
Hmm.
you just didn't know the name of it, right? So like now that we know what Immaculate Constellation is, you can start to like petition the government for the information,
Hmm.
and they have to give it to you, right?
Right.
Against for the law. So like, so that's the name of the program. Allegedly, they're going to bring these scientists forward to Congress to admit, like, yeah, we've worked on these legacy programs. So the craziest bombshell of all is that from people I've watched who are scientists who have already been like they're online too. They're like, I worked on this reverse engineering program. Like they're all out there, but it's just like it's not mainstream.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like there's YouTube. If you're in the space, you see all these scientists talking about it. So the crazy part is they could admit to a whole different physics that they have that is not public. So we're all focused on quantum physics and string theory, but there's a whole different type of physics that they've classified
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
under the Atomic Energy Act,
Yeah. Hmm.
which is the atomic bomb Oppenheimer.
Right.
Why is Christopher Nolan just giving us all the information, bro? He's like, here's Oppenheimer. And then you read an Oppenheimer, like, wait, there's like, it's connected to UAPs. Like Tenet, wait, it's connected to time travel UAPs.
Hmm.
You know, bro, I'm telling you, like, this guy is like giving us the breadcrumbs the whole time.
Hmm.
So, like,
Maybe he's an alien.
I think so, bro. Like, bro, how are you just giving us the information, bro? Because now it's all making sense. Like,
Right. Right.
if you look in Oppenheimer, you're like, oh yeah, there was a whole Atomic Energy Secrecy Act for the bomb.
Mm.
But then what they did was, in order to hide the UAPs at the highest level. So like what they were saying, Lou Elizondo was explaining this. You can have like in the military, it's like I outrank you, so you have to tell me everything you know, right? But if you're a part of a special access program, then even if you outrank me, it's a need to know.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to bring a committee in and we have to admit that you are worthy of needing to know. So
Right.
that's how this is working. And then like in Congress, they're going to be like, "No, we need to know." So they're going to like out it to the American people, right? And so with all these reverse engineerings, I think that maybe that's what and Stephen Greer said this, now it's clicking. The reason why you see so many UFO encounters in the US, like all these orbs and like people are like, "Oh my God, I was just walking, I saw a UFO." It's like because these are all reverse engineered testing crafts, bro.
Mm-hmm.
I really think that's what it is. It's just like they have a different type of physics that's able to affect gravity. That's why it looks weird. And they're just creating them and like piloting them, and people are witnessing it accidentally. And they're like, "Oh my God, UFOs are real." It's like, yeah, but those are ours.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Yeah, I don't mind. I think that I think that's something that I would say. Like, I don't know if they're alien. It could just be our tech that
I
was
think that's what it is.
right.
Yeah, I think like now that it like no, there is alien crafts for sure because that's how what they did. They reverse engineered it.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like
I'm not
they
right.
found
I
it.
understand that. Yeah, yeah.
Right?
But like what people are seeing, it may just be our own or
I
American
think so.
own technology.
I think so. I really think so. Because if you look at the Tic Tac case, okay, so Stephen Greer is like the Tic Tac is ours. I'm like, okay, sure, maybe. Like his documentaries are so good, but like people are sleeping on him. So when the fighter pilots they fought they did like an aerial maneuver with the Tic Tac, right? Then it disappeared. And then when they went to their secret location where they're all going to meet up, the Tic Tac appeared there.
Mm-hmm.
How would the Tic Tac know that? Unless it was us,
Right.
right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Because like, so like the UFOs know where your cat point is. That makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how would they conceive any of that unless it was ours and it's going back to the same base where you are because that's where like
Right. Mm-hmm.
they
Mm-hmm.
load and unload ships. You know
Sure.
what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then when they talk about like these giant mechs underwater, I'm like, that could just be ours too, bro. That
Mm-hmm.
they're just testing these underwater like mechs, like literally Gundam Wing, bro.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
It's making sense, right?
Yeah, it's
Like we
possible.
have
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
no, but like I don't unless you're like no that you're missing a blatantly obvious hole here. Like I don't know. What do you
I
think?
would no, no. I'm saying like I would more direct it towards being man-made.
Yeah, the UFO sightings, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I agree too. Well, that's what Stephen Greer was saying. He's like everything you see is mostly us.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, maybe I don't know. But then when you hear about these legacy programs and like um, Immaculate Constellation, you're like, okay, so it's probably us.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing that actually makes sense, you know.
Right.
So okay, where I'm getting with this, and this is why I'm excited about November 13th. I don't care. Sure, make your. Oh wait. Here's a crazy one too. So you can classify physics, which they admitted to. So, string theory and quantum physics. I was like, oh, people are like, because people who are in the quantum physics world, they're like, we don't fully understand it, and like string theory, it's an incomplete idea, right? But if these scientists have created a whole different branch of physics that's able to manipulate gravity and time travel, all that stuff, the reason why you classify it is because it's like under the atomic energy, it's like weaponized.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's a military secret.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But what these people are arguing about, these scientists are like, you can't classify science
Mm-hmm.
because science is general. Like it's not. You can't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You can't make gravity
No,
proprietary.
no,
You know
no,
what I'm saying?
no. I get that. No, no, no. I think that, but that makes
And that's the
sense. That
battle. That's the battle.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like when they were
Funny.
doing the atomic bomb thing, they were battling with Germany. They weren't. They were hiding secrets in the sense of how they're going to do it, not
Yeah.
of the science.
Exactly. Right. And right. So with the Atomic Energy Act, they're using that to hide all of this, and that's what's making these companies very profitable
Mm-hmm.
because like like, yeah, sure, like let's give you a $1 trillion NASA deal to like fly to Mars. You know what I mean? But it's like, but you know that you have anti-gravity, you could just warp to Mars. You don't actually need a rocket.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that's an unfair competitive advantage,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
So like you're kind of playing the game. You're playing with
Mm-hmm.
people with the
Mm-hmm.
game. You know, it's like, yeah, let them put their money in there. Like EVs. Let's go back to EVs.
Mm-hmm.
So like if I'm an investor and I'm like, oh, EVs are the future, bro. So I'm gonna put all my money in EVs. And then like 2 years down the line, you're like, oh, actually we have this whole different science, 0 point energy. You don't even need EVs. I lost all my money.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the real issue that they're saying is behind the secrecy. Because they've created this little game of economics that if you out it, people got screwed out of their money.
Mm-hmm.
It's an economics issue. It's not actually hey, we're not alone in the universe. I
Right.
think if most people you're like, hey, we're not alone, you're like, cool, that makes sense.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
You know, these UFOs, they're actually our tech. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, totally. So like people are like, oh, ontological shock. People freak out and like quit their jobs and they won't want to work if they find out these aliens are real. And then like when you dig a little deeper, it's like, no, actually there's like business deals that went on and unfair competitive advantages. The reason why Lockheed got so big is because of this. The reason why Bell got so big is because of this, which is not fair for us as consumers because you breach um your what do you call it? Like stock market SEC laws or
Okay.
whatever.
SEC laws. Yeah.
Yeah, because like it's open, it's like you can
Mm-hmm.
put your money, right?
Mm-hmm.
But once you find out that like no, there was information that was withheld, then it's like insider trading basically.
Right.
Like insider trading. Like if
Yeah.
I know
Yeah, yeah.
information, like I know a company's gonna fail, so I invest in this other company,
Mm-hmm.
but nobody knows that information. Like when you're doing like public stock market stuff, everybody has to know the information.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what keeps it fair.
Mm-hmm.
So like this is what's but it could crash the economy
Mm-hmm.
because then people are like, I invested so much in gas and you have 0 point energy. When it comes out, then I'm going to lose all my money, blah, 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 right? So
Sure.
they're going to pull out their money and like, we're going to see an economic collapse,
Mm-hmm.
which is what one army official mentioned. He's like, this could be like the collapse that happened during the Bronze Age. Because like we developed too quickly. People didn't know how to regulate the economies and then like the whole thing collapsed.
Mm-hmm.
It's making sense though, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't care about any of that. Like, sure, you guys will figure that out. What I care about is if they admit that there's a whole different type of physics and an energy source that is infinite and like superior, we are literally right about to see a cyberpunk future.
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine that? Like hover cars, freaking, like, I don't know, like laptops that never need to die,
Sure.
like
Right.
greenhouses that freaking don't
Mm-hmm.
and so you can have food forever, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. That'd be a great future.
That would be a great future. And I think
Sure.
that's why I'm excited about November 13th. It'll still take a while because they'll admit to the legacy program and then they'll have to do more research. They'll probably have to like reconvene and be like, what do we do with this legacy program? But like if you have physics that's far beyond anything anyone's doing and the capability to make crazy energy sources, it's like, dude, it's a
Mm-hmm.
no-brainer. We're gonna
Mm-hmm.
have like a utopia on Earth.
Right.
But then who's in power? That's the real question.
Who knows?
No, like if nobody has
Yeah. I know what
like
you're saying. Yeah.
you know what I mean, like gas power, like who bro, who like the Saudis are done.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Maybe nobody will be in power. Oh.
We'll see. I don't know. That's a different world.
Do you think Elon Musk could be hella pissed?
Um.
You know what I mean? Like SpaceX. He's like, dude, I was working on reverse thrusters the whole time. Bro, it's EV cars. What are we doing? Like I had solar
Sure. Yeah.
panels.
Sure. Sure.
I could see him being hella pissed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'd be crazy if like nothing came out of this and just overhyping it. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
November 13th comes, like nothing.
We'll see. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So hopefully a bright future if this thing comes to pass, and if it doesn't, it's just like, dude, we're in the dark, and I don't know what's going on.
Mm.
Wait, do you hear about the Milton
Yeah.
Hurricane Milton?
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
like, all right, this is the problem with not having news on my social media. I just heard about this. Like, what? This is a rager? Like, what's going on? Like, it's like a big storm or something, and like,
It's a hurricane.
dude, what are we gonna do? Yeah, but what are we gonna do about all this? Like, climate change, and like, you see so many like dark paths. You're like, dystopian AI, weather is gonna kill us, you know? Or we move towards like cyberpunk. I don't know. Like, they're like, not aside from, you know, the economic collapse and like all that stuff, it's like we still have to worry about the weather, which is crazy. I was like, dude, what? And
Yeah.
then Florida's gonna be underwater. Like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. Freaky. Anyways.
Yes.
All right.
Well, it wasn't
any
as
last things?
bad. I'll say that.
Like, what do you mean? Oh, it wasn't as bad? Oh, it's done?
Yeah. It was done.
Oh. Oh, so Florida, nothing happened? Dude, I'm not gotten no news.
Not that
on
nothing
my
happened. It's just not as bad as they had predicted.
See, there it is. The psyop, bro. They're all warning us, and then like, oh, nothing actually happened. But we all like
No, I
freaked
didn't say
out.
nothing happened. I'm just saying it's not as
Oh.
worse as they predicted.
Oh, okay. So Florida's
There
still
are
there.
chances that it could be that. It's a prediction, right? Based on certain models.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that it's um
Gonna
it,
happen every time.
yeah,
100%.
but it was like, hurricanes can be bad if they do reach that category 5. It could be like what happened in New Orleans. So that was the risk.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. True.
So it's better to be risk averse, right? Like just
Yeah, totally.
what they say, evacuation, and then if it doesn't come that way, then it's good.
Maybe that's what they're doing with the warnings of the AI. They're just like, hey man, just worry about we're not trying to move towards a dystopian future, but just like understand that this is a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Anyways, any last things?
No, hopefully it's a bright future.
Hope I agree with you. I hope it's a bright future too.
Yeah.
All right. Till next time. Take it easy, Vish.
Peace.
Bye. All right. Hope you enjoyed that episode. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all those fun things, and check out our sponsors: Zenro Clothing Co., Portian Bakery, and Podbean. Take it easy, Vish.
Peace.